we all take our work seriously, but at the end of the day, we want to be able to have fun doing it and have a great time. And we just want, when people come over here, we want them to relax and just enjoy the province and the people. That means, sitting down and having a good glass of wine, then we're all for it.
This is Over a Glass. I'm Shanteh Wale. Kia ora. Matthew Sutherland is General Manager of Point Vineyard in Marlborough, New Zealand, one of the most recognisable wine brands and New Zealand's largest certified organic vineyard. Today I'm joined by Matt, who works tirelessly to spread the word and wine of his family across the globe. Hi Matt, thanks for joining me.
Hi Shanteh, thanks for having me.
All right, it's been such a pleasure to have you on, and it's been a long time between drinks. The word's changed so much since we last saw each other. How are you?
I'm really well. It's been, it's crazy, isn't it? Crazy few years, but looks like things might be starting to get back to a bit of normality. But it's been a long time since I've seen some of our Aussie friends over the ditch. So next time, I've been hugging everyone I see that's not a Kiwi. So it's a welcome to get back to travelling again.
I bet, especially for you, who's somebody that's kind of, got the travel bug and you're kind of everywhere. Point Vineyard and the people behind it have a very special place in my heart. But can you give me a bit of a rundown on how Point all started for you all?
Yeah, like it's I guess we kind of started off as a farming family, really. Like we were down the east side of Marlborough, like near the coast, only sort of 5-10 minutes away. Growing up and I grew up on a cropping farm down there, growing corn, and I mean my memories were just running through sort of cornfields. So we very much. I was on my father's family farm, and Dad was a rower, and he was doing a lot of rowing at that time, and he rowed for New Zealand, and so he was doing a lot of travel, but he also did sort of farm management and valuation. And I think through that he was involved with a lot of Marlborough farmers and that evolution of what was happening in the industry and around the region. So he naturally, with his cousin, planted a vineyard in 1979. And so that's well before I was born. And then it kind of just evolved from there. So we sort of moved out to where Point is in about 1988. And I started primary school out there, and things kind of just evolved, really. So the first plantings were 79, and it just sort of, I guess, took off from there. Dad took on the viticultural director role for Cloudy Bay, so he was responsible for, doing all the vineyards, the development, and he was, I guess, involved with the brand side as well with Kevin and James. And look, and it just sort of grew. So I guess first and foremost, we're a farming family, and it evolved into viticulture, and we were a grower for quite some time. And it really wasn't till, I guess, 2002 that we started making wine for ourselves. So, the Point Vineyards are old in a Marlborough sense, but when I talk about the wines in bottle, we're not that old at all.
I think it's you have to be reminded of that, especially because your father, Ivan, has such a wealth of knowledge. And like you said, he's so ingrained into the Marlborough region. But it's such a competitive region considering the growth exponentially in the last 20 years or so. Does community play a role in Marlborough?
Look, there's about 28,000 hectares in Marlborough now, if you consider the size of that compared to, even the Côte d'Or. We've come a long way in a short time. And I think the one thing that I love about our region is the mix of business and the mix of people and the goals and aspirations of everybody. Like we've got huge international investment here, but we've got the small artisan producer too, and everything in between. And I think that makes for a really healthy working industry. And everyone, we're very collaborative here, and we work really closely with 6 or 7 different wineries, and we're really fortunate that we can just be benching wines and just getting other people's opinion, and it's very much a constructive culture that we work for. So I think it's evolved, but everyone is of the same elk, I guess, and they want Marlborough to be a premium wine growing region, which it is, but it's also about spreading the word and the diversity and the both with the people in it and the terroir as well.
Well, it certainly has shaped so much of, the Southern Hemisphere in terms of people's perception of wine, and we'll all forever be grateful, I think, of that. Let's talk a little bit about your experience. You studied a Bachelor of Viticulture and then went on to a Bachelor of Commerce. And then you decided to gain experience in sales and marketing with Red and White. It's clear that you're a bit of an overachiever. Are you just the kind of person that wants to know everything?
Overachiever. I don't think anyone's told me that before, but I'll take that one, Shanteh. Look, it's a funny thing, I grew up on the vineyard, and I guess my summers were filled with, bud rubbing and lifting wires, and if I was lucky, I got to drive a tractor, but it was very much, you have to earn the right to sit on a piece of machinery. And so I was working sort of all through school. I went off to boarding school in Christchurch, and I'd be coming back, and they were my summer jobs. I did one at Claddy Bay, one for Marlborough. And I must admit, by the end of it, I was just like completely over it. And I just didn't want really to do viticulture. I didn't want to do winemaking. It just didn't feel the right fit for me. So I was just like, the only thing I was sure about is that I wanted to go to university because it sounded like fun. And so I applied for 3 different universities, and, then I had to decide which one I wanted to go to. And I guess, when you do that, I left school, and a lot of people will be in the same boat. It's just like, well, what do I do now? And I just thought, look, I've got a history with viticulture. I don't think I want to do it, but maybe I'll change my mind. So look, I'll start there and see what happens. And it was really, I guess I got going, and honestly, I just found it really boring. And I was 18 months into it, and I said to some friends, I think I'm going to change because I just wasn't really feeling it. And it's a funny thing, and I was really in 2000. I was kind of in the third year, going into third year, and then my folks and James Healy, so was also a partner in Dog Point, were heading over to visit the Francois Frere, which is our barrel cooper. And they said, well, do you want to tag along? And I was like, well, yeah, I do. I'm 20 years old and I'd love to go to Europe. Absolutely. I was, so I was very lucky in that regard to be able to do that. But the one vivid memory I have is just sitting with Francois Frere, and they'd put us up in their little sort of hostel, sorry, I say hostel, but they're really nice house in Saint Romain, and we're having dinner with the owners, and it was James's birthday, and it was in my really first foray into I guess communicating with people in the industry outside of my own little bubble, and so we're chatting away, and they started bringing these wines out, and there was wine after wine after wine after wine after wine. And I was sitting next to James, and James was drinking every single one and not spitting out because it was his birthday. And then so him and I just followed what James was doing, and I ended up doing the same thing. And so James and I got completely and utterly hammered at our, and the last wine that he brought out was a 1993 Latache. And it was, well beyond my my education at the time, and I was way out of my league. But I do remember having it going, man, that is really, really tasty. And it wasn't until really afterwards that it dawned on me. And it's only later, I guess, that the significance of that bottle. And so the next day, I was just, I sort of thought to myself, there's a different side to this, to the industry. It's not all viticulture, it's not all sort of winemaking, it's not all science. There's a huge other area, and I was really sort of fascinated to maybe sort of learn a bit more about it. So I actually came back from that trip, and that's when I decided to have a crack at business management and commerce, and see if I could maybe combine the two and find something there that would float my boat, I guess. And that's what I did. So I stayed on at uni and did another honours degree, and at the end of that, started going into sales and distribution, and kind of never looked back, and I guess it's been invaluable. And I think the other thing is when you're working in a family business, and I wasn't sure at that point whether I was going to come back into it or not, but for me personally, I just wanted to be able to bring something to the table. I didn't want to be, I guess, just coming back in, and because it's a family-run business, it's have my place there, and I'll just find a spot and I'll do my thing. And I really wanted to add value, and that's just sort of my personality, really. Everything I do, I need to be making sure I'm adding something to the conversation, or and I need to earn the right to do that, because there's so many people that have been working in our business for such a long time and doing an amazing job, that I needed to be also proving a point that I can add something that we haven't got, and a skill set that we don't have. And so that was what really appealed. And so I sort of just started off on that, and it kind of just evolved and took me to, I was in Wellington for a period, and then into Australia, and then into London. And it's really, it's funny how things work. I started just meeting all these producers, these small producers out of France, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, and the passion that they had, they were just ingrained in what they do. And it's pretty amazing. I mean, and it just sort of started to rub off on me. And it was more, and it was also their generosity, and, explaining, the evolution and the history of their businesses, hosting you. I started talking to people like Jasper Morris, and these are just wealth of knowledge people that are just so happy to share their experiences. And that's when it started sort of, I guess, the urge to kind of start going back in towards production, creep forward again. And so it's sort of, I've done a full 360 really. And so it's been a bit of a journey, but I've loved every minute of it.
That's what I love about talking to you and your family, is that you always surprise me. Now, when I first looked at your resume, I thought, here's somebody that knows that he's going to be in the family business, but he's going to have to do the ropes of doing all these things. But in fact, your story really is more of the fact that you found it quite boring, and, you wanted to just find some fun along the way. And if you could work wine into it, that would be, something to do with viticulture or something to do with wine, that would be good. And that's so honest of you to say that, because you're right. It can be incredibly dull, and it can be, very scientific, this whole world. But there's this other side to it, which is so much about sharing and people and passion, that it kind of balances out all of that nerdy stuff.
Yeah, well, and I think it's I was young and probably very naive, and just following my own path. And when you're 18, 19 years old, I mean, I just wanted to drink beer and have fun, and
who doesn't?
And who, yeah, exactly. And so you do all those things, and I think you learn as you go. And I loved meeting so many different people, and I've just got so many friends across the world now, and I'm just so privileged to have that. And I think that's kind of the whole thing makes sense, because I did it the other way. I think if I stayed in production and did that, I possibly wouldn't have the same passion that I do now. And it's sort of starting from the top and working backwards, of being able to connect the dots a bit just for me personally, and connecting that line. And I think it's it's been a great journey. But I think you can, for everyone out there, I mean, it's so many times you can leave school or university and you're just not feeling the vibe of what you want to do. And so to change and go different directions are a really positive step in my mind. And you got to try things to work out what you don't like. And I think the same thing goes for winemaking. And the one thing I was told by Ivan and James is winemaking is really simple, and but you do have to complicate it to simplify it. You have to try stuff to work out what works and what doesn't. And often you'll go back and go, actually, it's just the little 1%ers that make the difference. And and that might be something as simple as hand picking for our style. I mean, they're just little things. And so I started basically doing the same thing, just simplifying the whole process. And I think, with everything we do now, even in general life, just try not to complicate stuff too much, and things just sort of happen and work out. So, we work really hard to do what we do, but I think at the same time we're surrounded by a really great crew as well. So we all manage to support each other and have a lot of fun doing it. So we're really privileged and lucky to do what we do.
Yeah, it really seems to be that, with a brand as such, you do need to have to be savvy in business, but in kind of all aspects. And it makes a lot of sense to me that, Dog Point has been so successful because you do have people like yourself that are really strong in communication or selling the brand, in the distribution and network and how that works, let alone all the other parts. And there are sadly a few wineries that make wonderful wine but just don't know how to communicate it or go out there, and you have people to do that. But I think with you being so attached to your brand and the family, you've got someone that knows the inner workings of a lot of the aspects, which is really, really very clever. So good on you for doing all that hard work to get you to that point.
Yeah. Well, I'm lucky to be where I am, but it's also I love every sort of part of the of the industry, and so I love dabbling in everything. And but in order to do that, you've got to be working with people that can really own stuff as well. So I'm really lucky to have like Murray and Nigel and Anna, and as a team collectively, we can. We work really well together, and it's just makes my life a lot easier, and then I can really hone into what you love. But we get to enjoy every part of it, and I think that as a family business, that's one of the strengths, is you're not isolated to one thing. You are engrossed in every single part, and that's whether you're a winemaker, a viticulturalist, or you're an operational genius. Out in the working machinery. So that's what we try and do, and bring people along for the journey, really.
Yeah, you can definitely tell it's a very strong knit group that you have, which is amazing. I want to talk about the portfolio, because Dog Point has 4 incredibly strong wines. Why the decision to make 4 wines and not stretch it out and have different layers and different lines?
Yeah, great question. It's and I think the answer to that is just it was simplifying things and just trying to do 4 things really well. And I think, the guys had been at Cloudy Bay previously. They make sort of a few different wines. And I think they just wanted to get back to the nitty gritty and just focus on what Marlborough does really, really well. And with our experience and what our vineyards do too. So, look, we had established vines in the ground before we started, which was really useful. And we'd worked with those blocks, in previous lives before Dog Point. So we'd seen the evolution and flavour profiles and the structure that they deliver into the wines. And I think, we just decided, 4 wines, and we wanted to do everything. Like, we wanted to make the wines, clean the barrels, and it wasn't a case of, we were concerned that the bigger you get, the more help you need. And so we did want to be able to have that quality control element. And I think we just thought 4 wines. And, I think the best bit of advice that we got was, if you can, make really good wine, and, if you can go to Australia, New Zealand, and the United States, then, and you're good enough, then people will come and talk to you. And so I guess that's what we did. We just worked with Red and White in Australia, who have been since day dot and been an amazing agent to work with, and originally Berry Brothers and Rudd in the UK, and now with Vintus in the United States. And so it's kind of just evolved from there, and it's been and we've never wavered from that. I think the one thing we have been trying to do is the ageability, and I guess we talk about Marlborough and Sauvignon Blanc, and in some ways it can be the Achilles heel, because it's sort of Marlborough's seen as not a one-trick pony, but it is very much the core of what the industry does here. But there's world-class Chardonnay and Pinot and Riesling, and so I guess for us it was always about challenging the mentality that Sauvignon needed to be drunk within 6 to 12 months. And so, because it sort of sent the wrong message in our eyes, and so for us we were trying to make styles of all wines that particularly Sauvignon, that can go 10 years plus. And so we've done a lot more around holding wine back and re-releases and trying to, I guess, do the aging for people to really show the freshness that retains in the bottle with time. And that really comes down to, I guess, the ethos from hand picking and whole bunch pressing to get minimal skin contact right through. So doing it well, and there's just so much to learn within those with our own vineyards, and I feel like that's busy enough. Having said that, we do make home bake sparkling wine that we just drink here while we make the other stuff, but we don't sell it.
Oh, that's such a tease.
Small production, Shanteh, so you have to come back over to have that one.
I'll hold you to that. I'm glad that you brought that up, because most of us are familiar with having tasted a Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough, and you do them so incredibly well, and so I understand completely why there's a plethora of bottlings. But like you said, you've always had a slightly different approach to longevity, not only just the freshness that you maintain, but the complexity that changes over time. So Section 94 made huge waves in Australia. Tell me a little bit about what happened when you released Section 94 and the response that you got.
Well, that was the first vintage was 2002, actually. So I just finished university. The first I just started. Sorry, I'm not that old, but I feel like it sometimes. But I was coming back for vintages, for vintage when I could, and that was that parcel actually went to Cloudy Bay, I guess, for the first 18 years, and Ivan and James saw that coming through, and it was never aromatically the best wine or the best parcel, but structurally it was always in the top three. And when I say that, the kind of relationship between pH, acidity, and brix, and getting that physiological balance in the berries. So when we went to do Section 94, and this was before, I was in the mix, but by no means on the payroll. Ivan and James were like, that's why we're going for it. And I guess it was planted in 1992. So I guess there was 10 years of established planting there. Still young, I guess, when you think about it. But now, we've got 30 years on that vineyard. And I guess the style was about really using wild yeast in barrel and sort of experimenting with that. So we haven't wavered too much there. It's always been about evolution rather than trying to, all old barrels, the more sort of vessels to hold the ferment rather than trying to get sort of oak into the wines. So, originally we had to buy old barrels from France for those first two vintages, but now we can recycle them through our own production. But and it's I guess so. In a sense, it's a single vineyard, but it's more, I guess, the different tech and winemaking styles. So it's full barrel ferment and 18 months sitting on that lees and wild yeast, and it's a very kind of oxidative process. Like we just let it go, really. And just I always sort of say it's a bit like unpasteurized cheese. We don't really do anything to protect the freshness of it. And the one thing I love about it, you can see the vintage variation. Like if it's a cold year, you'll see it. If it's a hot year, you'll see it. And it really sort of has its own personality. So, and it's very unique to that one vineyard. So there's some great examples of barrel fermented styles coming out of Marlborough, but that's very much in its own kind of little world. And, we love it. And I think as we've gone, we've pushed the boundaries of reduction and using full solids. And, there's 1 year we've probably found the boundary, gone over it quite a bit, and then decided, that's probably a bit much. And then we've held it back, and then, funnily enough, just re-released it now. So these are all these little things that every vintage is different, and the climate's changing, and what we're dealing with on the ground is never been so volatile. So it's about trying to be fluid and move and learn from what you've done, and also use the knowledge of everyone in our team to achieve the best result we can. So I guess the Section 94 is definitely one that we love it, but it's also, I love giving it to people that have never had that sort of style of wine before, because they just sit on it and they think about it, and first sometimes they go, I don't know if I like it, but by the end of it they love it. but they still can't pin down the variety. Or so once you've had it once, you never forget it. But I think for a first timer, it's always a real pleasure to taste with them and talk them through it.
It's a great wine to give someone blind, and you're right. They always have quite a visceral reaction to it. It's kind of love or hate, or I'm not sure. Please explain what is happening in my mouth, which is really, it's a joy to watch people try it. But I'm glad that you mentioned that, it is so seasonal, because I have had, vintages which I really, really preferred over different ones. And I think that, like you said, you have, over time changed the styles a little bit and tweaked it. And it's great to see the evolution. And that really should be what wine should be. It should reflect, the place it comes from and the time and the people behind it. And all of that changes. It doesn't stay the same. So it's nice to hear.
Yeah, well, it's and that's what it's about, right? I mean, it's it just tells a story of what happened in the vineyard that year, and we don't try and, I guess, cover things up that didn't happen, or what you see is what you get with the 4 of our wines. And hopefully, we're probably a little bit selfish. We make styles of wine we like to drink ourselves. I mean, if COVID's anything to go by, it was us that ended up drinking quite a lot of it. So it's it proved a good philosophy. But look, we're just thrilled to be able to do what we're doing, and obviously looking forward to getting back over to Australia and a bit more, and getting the wines back out there again.
Yeah, and showcasing to them in person, because that's really, I'm sure, one of the joys of seeing your wines finally in bottle and sharing them with the world. You talked a little bit about, we said the four wines, and I actually really like that about Dog Point, because I feel I can grasp what you guys do. I can delve deeper into some of the organic practices and the winemaking that you use, because there's not so many wines to get your head around. And like you said, I think they're all really strong in each bottling. But in a few sentences, can you tell me what you think makes Pinot Noir and Chardonnay unique in Marlborough?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think look, we've got a lovely climate here. I mean, we're maritime. We get nice, even ripening, but a lot of it comes down to canopy management. And I think particularly, with a few exceptions, I mean, Marlborough's a bit like a mini Champagne, and all the key parcels of land are held by contract growers. And so, in Marlborough, there's a lot of sourcing from the wider region to make these wines, and as a result you get an expression of the region. And for us, we're very much confined to the southern valleys. We're all estate grown, and so we've got a lot more of that silty clay, straight clay influence, and the effects of that on Chardonnay particularly is that kind of citrus core flavours. And so I feel like with Mendoza dominant, and a very similar style of winemaking to Section 94, and that we're fermenting on full solids, and sort of playing that reduction line, but we're trying to get more of the flinty kind of influence coming through. We can't push the boundaries of ripeness in Marlborough. We're not hot enough for long enough, and so we've got this sort of citrus core, and we want a more refreshing style of Chardonnay, and I think it works really well here. You've seen I reckon in the last particularly 15 years, 20 years, that sort of move in Chardonnay to that kind of style where it is more refreshing and really understanding what's happening in the region, and building, or making and evolving the wines to suit, what we've got to work with. And, we're a really young industry, and it's kind of maturity of industry in a way. And, that's the exciting part. We've come such a long way in a short time. And, what happens when we start getting this, 40, 50 years on these vines, and the concentration and the structure we're going to be able to achieve. And, that's really exciting for us. And that's what I say, 4 wines, we've got so much to look forward to and so much to understand that I feel like we don't have room for much else. But the same goes for Pinot. I think, in Marlborough particularly, there's a lot of chat around southern valleys and those straight clay soils, and providing that concentration and depth of flavour. And I think a lot of the early days, and probably fair enough, that a lot of those early plantings were clones suitable for sparkling wine production, and they were all on the gravel gravel soils out on the Wairau Plain, and what happens is the canopies get so warm because the rocks are so hot, and then you end up getting these sort of ripe, sort of fruity, sort of ripe, so slightly leaner styles of Pinot, and that's again is understanding site and clone, and we're really fortunate that we've been on these southern sites and got the vine age with the right clonal mix, and now we're getting on those right sites. So we're starting to see the benefits of that, and I think the same. There's a group of producers, 10, 15 producers doing amazing Pinot, and I think that is in New Zealand particularly. I think there's some real value there in a bottle of wine at the moment, because, as you know, it's such a fickle variety, and it takes such a lot of love and attention to make it. And I think if people look to Marlborough and really do their homework, they're going to be pleasantly surprised with what's coming out of here. And that's people like Greywacke, Corofin, Novum, Settlement. These are all these small producers like ourselves, just really trying to hone in and work with the parcels of land we've got in a Marlborough style. So we're very much in the red berry spectrum, but we have lovely, nice, soft tannin. It's just about getting the concentration, and that's where your cropping and canopy management comes into play. So, look, it's an evolving process, but it's really exciting, and I think. I think we've got a lot to offer, and I'd definitely put our Pinots and Chardonnay up against anything, really. If that, well, I did one year. It was with Shaw and Smith, actually, at the Noosa Wine and Food Festival, and I felt like I was outnumbered by Australians, but they put me at the post. But I'll have to have them on about that.
There's always another year, don't you worry. And I know, I imagine right. Shaw and Smith is always up for it. They love to put their wines against the wines of the world, so I'm sure you'll have another chance. I was going to say, when I was over there, I was very lucky to have almost a full day with your dad and one other person, and we drove around Marlborough, and what I remember most from your dad is, other than being very eloquent in the way he speaks, was that he would get down in one area of Marlborough and he would grab the soil and he would talk to me through, what was happening with some of the clays there. And then another area, we were talking about airflow within, through the canopy, and we were kind of, looking another point right up on the top of the hill, and we were talking about where the sunlight hits. And I just remember thinking, I have really got such an amazing perspective from everything, and I really felt like, man, this is the person that should take everyone around Marlborough if you ever get the chance. Yeah. He was just so ingrained in everything, and the people behind it, the names of the families that were there and that grew, and he was just absolutely fascinating individual, and I felt really lucky to have that day. So such incredible people behind Dog Point, and it's no wonder why the wines are as good as they are.
Yeah, well, that's nice of you to say. I mean, he hasn't sort of wavered since day one. He's a I love working with him. And we're great friends, and at the same time we can have our we have our debates like father and son would, but it's all healthy stuff. And but he was born and bred Marlborough, and he's seeing from it was farming country, and he's just witnessed the whole pioneering stage of viticulture all the way through. So. And sort of the knowledge before viticulture came along as well, which is, and as you say, the soils and the variability, and even just these little nooks and crannies in the back country that he used to value back in the day. And he'd tell me a story about that, and it's just like, well, it's invaluable. And we're really fortunate to have the experience there on our doorstep, because it definitely makes our life a lot easier when if you're not sure of something, or you just need a second opinion, or you've got sounding boards everywhere with all this experience. And between Ivan, Mark, James, and Wendy, they've got so much of it, and they're so happy to share it. And as I say, it's we're very fortunate as a team to be able to call on that if we need it. And I don't think those guys will ever fully retire, and they're still ingrained in what we do, and we wouldn't have it any other way, because it makes for a lot of fun, and we're constantly learning. And I think even I'd say they're still learning every year. And if this last one's anything to go by, and the one before, then that's certainly reigned true. So. No, it's it's a great thing, and we're really fortunate.
Yeah, you can never sit back on your laurels and think, oh, we've learnt all we need to know now, and we can just chill out. That's for sure in this industry.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's something tells me that's going to continue to happen. So it's we just got to be ready for anything that comes our way, and just go move with the times.
Keep on keeping on, exactly. As a family full of talented winemakers and growers, no doubt your family celebrations are pretty nice. How do the Sutherlands celebrate together when you get together?
Yeah, that's funny. Well, it's a little bit like a commune here, to be honest, because we've got the winery, and then Nigel's down the road, Murray's to the south side, I'm to the north side, my two sisters are to the west side, and even our latest vineyard manager's living on site too. So you don't have to drive off the vineyard to get to any one location. So for a start, it means you don't need taxis or Ubers or anything like that. So that's critical. And then look, we're always, having socially having a beer or a wine with the team at work, and then as a family, we'd celebrate all birthdays, and we all get along really well. And Ivan loves bringing out a few bottles, and as you know, we love sharing them with people, and it's. Yeah, there's no point hiding them away when they're ready to go, and I think being able to do that is pretty special, and I think that's the one thing that really stuck with me through all my travel and working with people, is just the utter generosity of people when and they don't even blink twice, and they do it so humbly, and they just get such a kick out of sharing something with you, and I really wanted to sort of, I guess, that stuck with me, and that's what it's about. Everyone learns, and building friendships, and being able to do that is a real privilege. So we try to do the same thing. We all take our work seriously, but at the end of the day, we want to be able to have fun doing it and have a great time. And we just want, when people come over here, we want them to relax and just enjoy the province and the people, and that means sitting down and having a good glass of wine. Then we're all for it. So it's we're always. I think the toughest point this time, spring and summer over here, is actually having a day when you don't have something. So that's the biggest challenge for us. But there's always someone wanting a cold beer or a glass of Chablis or something. So there's always something on offer, Shanteh.
I think that's great, because everyone does have a different style of what they like to drink, and I actually really enjoy family events and gatherings that are really different. And my Chinese family versus my my Aussie family, they're all so different, and like you said, I have a different tactic too. I kind of get all the wines together. I go, no, that's not going to work there, and I'll put these here, and it's nice to have an experience that's so different, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. And we're big fans of just getting a whole bunch of wine and throwing it on the table. And then people can just, they can, if they want to have a Syrah first, then you go right ahead, and it's each to their own, and they just work their way through it. And, we'll try and give them an idea of different styles around New Zealand, but abroad as well. And I think that's that's what we love about it.
It's the joy, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then some will just stick on a Spates for the entire evening, so that's fine as well.
Yeah, exactly. Some goes in with ice, and that's fine too.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm keen to know, Matt, if you could only drink 3 beverages for the rest of your life, what would they be and why?
Well, that's a great question, because I was thinking about this the other day. I'd listened to a few of your podcasts, and then I narrowed it down to 8.
Ooh.
And then I was like, how am I going to knock this down to 3? So I was like, well, I think first and foremost that I have to go with gin and tonic. I love number 3 London dry gin. I'm actually a celiac, so my beer drinking days are numbered. Over, yeah, exactly. So gin is my go-to for a nice, refreshing drink on a hot day. The other two are really tough. I think I'm a big fan of Saint Alban as an appellation. And that was something actually, even when I had a Pierre Yves Colin Moray when I was in the Netherlands once, and they just brought it out, and I think it was a 2011, and it was absolutely delicious. I was like, what? That was just amazing, and I just love the I guess the focus that they have and the flintiness of the back palates, and particularly in even warm years, they tend to be able to get this kind of freshness to them, and that's something that I always gravitate towards. So anything out of Saint Romain, I mean, if I was being really picky, the Pierre Yves wines or the Lammies and things, they just deliver every year, but they're very hard to get.
Yeah, the Lammies are getting more and more difficult, which is a bit of a pain, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, probably a gin, a Chardonnay, and the next one's is tricky. I love Negroni, and then I think I might have to put a Riesling in there as well. So something from JJ Prim or even the Dr. Lucen wines, I love them. Something out of the Mosel. We had a visit there one year, and Catriona, who is at JJ Prim, took us through it was Murray and myself, and went through about 12 different vintages, and she was hugely generous with her time, and they're just such delicious wines, and I don't know how they do it. But I think if it was me, I'd be having a gin and tonic, a Prim Riesling, and then I'd probably have something out of Saint Alban.
I like that. And look, I'll give you the Negroni because it's gin based, so that can go in there too, and I won't be too harsh.
Yeah, great. Well, the other thing I was thinking of is I noticed that a couple of people chose champagne, so I figured I could do a swap with them as well if we were stuck
definitely
with three wines.
Yeah, and look, Chardonnay based as well, so you can stretch it out, and yeah, 3 is pretty harsh, and to force people into just choosing 3s.
Yeah, I know, but it makes us really think, so I love it.
It does. Oh, that cracks me up. And I was thinking, when you said Saint Alban, all I could think of was PYCM, and I was like, that's got to be the wine that turned him on to Saint Alban, because I'm such a fan of Saint Alban too, but it was the Pierre Yves wines that turned my head and went, what's happening in this region? Holy moly. So
yeah, and it's amazing.
Well, I wanted to say, as one of the most generous and down-to-earth wine families that I've ever met, I want to thank you for your time today, and thank everybody behind Doug Point. I think I could probably use a metaphor and say that you've certainly proved your worth to be in the driving seat of Dog Point these days. A little bit like that experience with your tractor as a kid. I think you've really achieved so much, and it's in very good hands. And I'm really glad that you made some time for me today, and I hope our paths cross again soon.
Oh, same here, Shanteh. Thanks very much for having us. And we're hopefully not going anywhere. And as I say, it'd be nice to get over there and see you guys again. And hopefully you come back out to New Zealand and see us. And we welcome you with open arms.
Oh, I'd love that. Thank you so much, Matt. We appreciate it. Keep on keeping on, and cheers to you.
Cheers to you. Thanks very much.
This is Over a Glass. I'm Shanteh Wale. Stay tuned for more stories from the world of wine and drinks. Listen in every Thursday on your podcast app. Follow us on Instagram @overaglasspod, and contact us at overaglass@deepintheweeds.com.au.